So I want to make sure that this video comes off as honest and as level-headed as possible because I don't want any of my words to be misconstrued in any type of way when it comes to this whole next generation Nintendo Switch debate that's been going on with content creators and all over the internet. So essentially what this breaks down to, guys, it's very simple, and heck, I even have it written down right in front of me so I make sure that we get everything across, and of course there'll be timestamps as well so you guys can look at those. But Nintendo's not going to be releasing their next Nintendo Switch until it's ready. There's not going to be any forcing of the hand here. It doesn't matter how many videos people make or articles that people write. It doesn't really affect what's actually happening. Nintendo is not going to be listening to those, and they are going to develop their system and launch their system when they feel it's ready. Now, there's a number of key points why I feel that way based off of what's happened in the past and also what Nintendo's currently doing. And we're going to break those down with enough just so you guys get the gist of it so you can kind of see where I'm coming. Now, my own personal opinion before we get into this stuff here is that, yeah, it's time for the next Nintendo Switch system and it's coming. But I know Nintendo's past, and rushing to the next system isn't a good idea if they're not ready yet. So I understand it from that point of view. So I don't really need to see anything rushed out or need to make a, oh my gosh, Nintendo needs something now. No, they don't. And we're going to go over reasons why they don't need something right now at this point. They're working on the next thing and it's coming, but it's going to come when it's ready. So let's go over this first. So Nintendo Switch, it's still selling extremely well, right? The system is still selling extremely well. We got the Japanese Famitsu sales. It's killing it. 170,000 units for the past week in Japan. Over the past, I think like 6 weeks or so, it sold over 100,000 units, or at least 90,000 units plus. It's doing extremely well here in the US. It's still topping NPD charts very high in Europe and other parts of the world. It's still selling really well, and not only is it still selling really well, it's not the whole PSP effect where, oh yeah, it's selling really well, but then the software isn't doing well because people are using it for other means. It's actually doing well software-wise. Software, when it comes to digital sales and also physical sales, are strong across the board. This past holiday season, you're seeing games just shoot up out of nowhere into record-breaking sales or continue their sales as well. Switch fans have so much variety and options to pick from, and it's reflected in the MPD, it's reflected in the Japanese sales, it's reflected in the UK sales, it's reflected in the Spanish or Spain or anywhere else that you want to go to. You see Nintendo titles all over the place. You see them on Amazon, all littered throughout the top 100 games. You see it in the best sellers throughout the year. Software is selling better than ever on the Nintendo Switch, and fans are happy with it. Now, not everybody's happy. Obviously, there are people that are upset, and that's fine. There are other systems out there for people to play, so I just kind of see it that way. And obviously, it'd be better if some of this stuff was cleaned up a bit, but at the end of the day, people can choose what they want to play and where they want to play it. So right now, people are happy enough with what the system is doing, and they're buying that software because we have unprecedented levels of access to these games these days when it comes to what reviewers are saying, when it comes to the technical breakdowns, and people are still opting to buy what they want to buy. So software-wise and hardware-wise, Nintendo has no incentive to rush out something or to put out something right away when the Nintendo Switch is still selling extremely well, which is why you've seen some people try to say, oh, well, look at this, or it's going down, or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's still selling better than every other current generation system on the market right now. It's still selling just as good, if not better, in all of the regions. So Nintendo's looking at it like, okay, well, from a chip shortage perspective, which there still is that, and from a market perspective, we're still doing really good, you know? So for them, that's how they're kind of looking at it. So there's no need to rush out the next thing. Now, the next point here is, guys, that Nintendo isn't going to rush out another system before it's ready like the Wii U. And that is the biggest thing that I think that Furukawa and the executives at Nintendo want to avoid. The Wii U was rushed out because the sales of the current Wii were dipping hard. They were moving over the software to the Wii U. They didn't have the resources to do Wii U, and Nintendo 3DS in a timely fashion. So therefore, they kind of dropped the Wii and really just had Legend of Zelda for it at the very end and nothing else when it comes to third party or first party that was major enough. And they just waited, and they announced the Wii U a year before it launched. And on top of that, it was still rushed out. It still didn't have all the features that it needed at launch. Miiverse was not completely ready. The system was not fast enough. They had to release multiple updates to make it quicker. There were a number of problems with it, and their first-party software in terms of the pipeline and the lineup was not ready either. The Wii U was a test case in how you don't launch something. Now, obviously, the marketing wasn't very good at all, and there was many issues outside of just what I talked about. But at the same time, when you rush through things and you don't necessarily take the time that you need, that's what you can get. You can get bad marketing. Rushing a system to the market can lead to bad decisions. Whereas if you take your time and if you think about it and if you really plan it the right way, you're more likely to make the right decision when it comes to the marketing of the system, the name of the system, and everything. So take your time, make sure that you get it right, and don't repeat the issues that the Wii U had from a marketing standpoint, from a first-party development standpoint, from a third-party standpoint. Even though they had a number of big third-party games that launched, a lot of them were old, and a lot of new games didn't come out right afterwards for the Nintendo Wii U. So it caused a host of issues. Make sure with the Nintendo Switch that you have that ready to go, that you have that locked up when it comes down to it, so it doesn't share the same fate as the Wii U. And I know for a fact that Nintendo's executives are looking at that from that perspective and saying, well, if we have something that's doing well, we have no incentive to rush something out or to get it out when we can always take more time to make sure that we nail this launch and we have a better software lineup for the future. Now, the next point, which I kind of touched on a little bit, is that Nintendo wants to make sure that they launch with a proper release schedule of games, and the Switch affords them that right. So I think that this needs to be expanded upon a little bit, because when it comes to games and when it comes to what Nintendo does, I think that a lot of content creators somehow see Nintendo, or they feel that Nintendo should do what Microsoft and Sony does. And if you've noticed, a lot of the people that are upset or saying that they need to move on or whatever the case is also said that the Switch was going to fail because of power, because of third party, because of the same things. They've been habitually wrong about the Nintendo Switch pretty much all generation from the beginning all the way up until this point, yet they're still saying they should do this and that despite being wrong most of the time. So those people are generally going to play games on the PlayStation and Xbox and PC or whatever the case is, Steam Deck. I mean, they're not really worried too much about what Nintendo does in terms of how they're going to sell their system right. Now, what Nintendo needs to do is not do what Microsoft and Sony does when it comes to launching their system just whenever and relying upon third party. They tried that with the Wii U, didn't really go so well. Nintendo needs to make sure that they have their software lineup ready to go. Software takes a lot of time. You need to make sure that everything's set. You got to make sure that everything is good and ready to go. Now, the Switch was so great because not only did it launch an incredible first-party game with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but after that, it wasn't just a dry period of games. You had Splatoon, you had ARMS, you had Mario plus Rabbids, you had Pokken, you had Fire Emblem, you had Mario Odyssey. There was just a ton of games right after that that really filled in the gaps and made sure that everything was smooth, not just at launch, but also throughout that 2017 year. And for the most part, Nintendo has done a really good job with making sure that their software lineup has been consistent. They've launched at least 4 to 5 titles every single year the Nintendo Switch has been on the market, which a lot of companies can't say when it comes to first party and launching every year they've been on the market. Switch has been very good with that. I think that with the Nintendo Switch 2 or the next gen Switch, that's what they need to do. They can't just launch it and say, oh, well, these third-party games play better, so play those while we get everything ready. That's not a good idea. They tried it with 3DS, they tried it with the Wii U. Both of those systems did not do well enough in their respective categories when it comes to Nintendo home consoles, when it comes to Nintendo portables. Now, 3DS did okay, it was fine, but they had to drop the price of the system. I mean, things were looking very rough, and you don't want a repeat of that. So I personally feel that Nintendo is going to get their software lineup ready to go with the next Switch, that they have a consistent flow of games for the first 9 months to a year. Every single month, month and a half or so, you have a big new first-party game. You have a few big third-party Japanese titles sprinkled in. You have some Western games, and they're going to follow that same path that the Nintendo Switch followed, because that is a successful path and the most successful launch that they've had when it comes to a system since the Wii. And the Wii necessarily didn't have all of the stuff that the Nintendo Switch had when it launched. So they can really snowball this if they make sure that they follow that same plan and have those big launch games, have that big Mario Kart, that big 3D Mario, and then have a steady flow of software throughout the year to really help and make sure that people are continuing to buy the system. So a lot of people that are upset about this, they kind of want Nintendo just to release something and then maybe they have a launch lineup or not. Maybe they don't have anything and they think that it will just sell that way. And yeah, maybe, but probably not. A lot of Nintendo fans, when it comes down to it, they don't necessarily buy just for power. They buy for the games. The games are the biggest thing. So when you launch something new, you're going to need to have the games as well. The Wii U was a lot more powerful than the Wii, but it didn't have the big first-party games to really carry it. So therefore, Nintendo fans did not buy it. They opted for the Nintendo 3DS, which is much less powerful and had a host of issues itself as well, just like the Wii U when it comes down to the hardware-wise, right? So to me, you have to make sure that you launch with games and you have a good flow of games coming out regularly, and that's how you're going to get people to buy the next Nintendo Switch. Not just saying it's more powerful and it can play your third-party games better or past games better. No, you've got to have those games like the Nintendo Switch did it, and it can be a system that's not as powerful and still do extremely well. So I feel that that's what they're going to do for the next Nintendo Switch. They're going to make sure that they have that really good launch lineup. They've invested $1 billion or so into that next wave of software. So I think we're going to see that. And to me, I spent the most time on this topic when it comes down to it, because this is the most important. Software is always going to be the most important when it comes to first-party Nintendo software. So that's kind of my opinion on it based off of what's worked for Nintendo and seeing the things that haven't worked for Nintendo, even when they've had success like the Wii. You know, you need to have those games flowing, otherwise you're not going to get those sales. So that's kind of how I feel about it. And I did want to put up one more thing when it comes to like a point here. People have talked about this, and there's like a lot of pushback from some of the fans out there saying, oh, well, I don't want this, or the Switch needs to stay longer. I think that a lot of fans were kind of faked out with the Switch Pro stuff, right? We saw a lot of content creators, heck, even myself sometimes, say, oh, look at this Switch Pro, there's something here. And we've been doing that for how many years now? 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. People got tired of it. They just wanted to play games at that point, right? They're just looking to play games and have fun. So the Switch Pro fake outs really caused a lot of people to be like, oh my God, like, shut up with this next gen Switch stuff. Shut up with this Switch 2 stuff. Nintendo will launch it when they want to launch it. Until then, you can play whatever system that you want to play. So I think that's part of the backlash that some people are getting out there, and the resentment that you see online, kind of like having two sides to it. Now, once again, I'll say it from my own perspective. Yeah, I want there to be something. If there was a Switch Pro or whatever the case is, I would have bought it. But I think that the whole Switch Pro thing probably should have been like 2021 if they were going to do it. But I think the chip shortage, and I think that just manufacturing them would have been an issue in that atmosphere coming off of what we saw. So I think Nintendo probably just opted to say, you know what, we'll just get the next gen Switch out there in the next number of years and kind of skip on the whole Switch Pro thing. So that's my opinion. But I think that, yeah, it's coming. Next gen Nintendo Switch is coming. I feel that Nintendo's going to announce it in 2023 and it'll launch in early 2024. Or maybe they announce it in 2023 or it launches in 2023. I don't really know, but I'm banking on announced in late 2023, launching in 2024. That's what I'm guessing based off of the highly successful plan that they had for the Nintendo Switch. I don't really think there's any need to really change what they've done from a lead up wise. So we'll see how it all works out. But what are your thoughts when it comes to everything that we discussed here? I would love to hear what you have to say in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.